1912, over 1,500 people perished from the sinking of the RMS Titanic. The unsinkable Molly Brown, as most of us know, was one of the 705 survivors. However, she is less unsinkable than Miss Unsinkable Violet Constance Jessup. From an early age to an adulthood, she faced almost the impossible. She survived an almost impossible disease to recover from, 3 different ship catastrophes, and a marriage that had a dishonest foundation. Violet was the first of 2 Irish immigrants, William and Catherine Jessup. She would be one of 9 children, but only 6 of them survived infancy. She was diagnosed as a small child with tuberculosis, and she was told to only live a few months. Later, she survived, and she went to convent school. Catherine, her mother, worked for the Royal Mail Line, but then she grew ill, so Violet had to get out of school and go work in her place. She later went to the White Star Line, but was very hesitant. She had heard some rumors about the passengers, and they were almost impossible to work with. And she also didn't really look forward to working with the weather on the North Atlantic. But she went anyway because it was her and her family's best option to go. Working for the White Star Line was a very difficult and life-changing experience and decision. She was required to work 17 hours a day with a very small pay per month. The White Star Line built 3 different sister ships: the RMS Olympic, the RMS Titanic, and the HMHS Britannic. The RMS stands for Royal Mail Ship, the HMHS stands for His Royal Majesty's Hospital Ship, and the HMS stands for His or Her Majesty Ship. In 1910, she was accepted to be going on the Olympic. She got to be on the maiden voyage in 1911, and on the 5th voyage, they had hit the HMS Hawk. Neither of them sunk, but the Olympic went back into service in 1911 in November. Some friends convinced her to go on the Titanic, even though she was also very hesitant on going on that. But they said it would be a wonderful time. 4 days, as most of us know, they had hit the iceberg. She had helped the other stewardesses board women and children on boats. Then they had to get out of the way because the crowds were becoming more hectic and the officers had to manage the crowds. An officer told them to get on the boats, to number 1, for their safety, and to also convince the other women that it was safe for them to go with their children on the boats. When they were being lowered, an officer handed her a baby, and she just had to keep watch on it. When they had gotten the Carpathia, a woman came up to her and took the baby out of her arms. And she eventually found out that that woman was that baby's mother, and she had left to go get something, and when she came back, her baby was gone. In 1916, during World War I, she served as a nurse and stewardess on the Britannic. The Britannic and other White Star Line ships were converted into hospitals. The Britannic sunk because of a mysterious explosion. They don't know if it was either caused by a torpedo or if they had hit a mine planted by the German forces. She got on a lifeboat, but then had to get out really quick because the Britannic started to sink only 30 minutes after it got hit, and the suction from the boat going underneath was sucking all of the other lifeboats underneath the water. She did, although, hit her head on the keel, which is the underneath of the ship, and she didn't really think much of it. She just thought it was a bump on the head. But years later, she was starting to get these really bad headaches, and she went to the doctor, and they told her that She had once previously had a skull fracture, so I guess it did do something. In 1920, she returned but left to work for the Red Star Line instead of the White Star Line. Before the Titanic, she had met John James Lewis. John was said to be a bigamist, which is a man who is married to two women at the same time, but it was never really proven. He did, however, lie on his certifications. He said that he was a certified steward, but he was not. They had found out. In 1923, both were on the Majestic, and on the 10th voyage, they were paid off in Southampton, and they both went to London and got married so fast that they didn't even have an engagement ring. No one really knows the reason why they got married so fast. Their marriage only lasted a year. It was probably because of Lewis's deceitfulness towards her, and she also had a long lost love. Nobody really knows very much about him. She described him as a man named Ned, and the reason why it broke off was because he had promised his mother that he would not get married until he got promoted. So that's what broke that off. She grew to be 83 years old, and she lived after she retired in a country cottage with her chickens. She passed away from a heart attack. Miss Unsinkable Violet Constance Jessup survived an almost impossible disease to recover from, 3 ship catastrophes, and a marriage that had a very dishonest foundation. Even with all of these challenges, she didn't let that get her down in any way. Whenever we as a whole or individuals come to our challenges in life or with anything, just remember that you can defeat it, just like she did. So, live your best unsinkable life. Thank you.